The mind. Question: what do you mean by the term, the mind of the bubble? Datre: the mind of the bubble contains all possibilities and probabilities that are available for your expression and experience. In other words, for you to function in the manner in which everyone on the planet is able to understand what is going on, you must all draw the different possibilities and probabilities from one singular source. You can't have any more possibilities or probabilities than are contained within this bubble that surrounds your planet. There is no way you are going to be able to use up all the possibilities and probabilities available. They are far beyond your imagination. There are possibilities and probabilities that are, at the present time, way beyond your understanding. That has to be because you cannot progress any faster than a certain level of understanding. In other words, if you were to pick possibilities and probabilities that would be functional in the year 3005 and bring a possibility or probability from that time expression period into now, what would you do with it? And yet, it has to be there in order for you to progress through a physical construct. That does not mean that you could not understand it. The physical body could not. Nor could anyone else in a physical body. So you have a certain understanding of your experience at the present time. There will be discoveries made, and you will exclaim that they are far ahead of the time that individuals on the planet understand them. Yes, but that is not reaching out as far into your possibilities and probabilities that you could go if the understanding of the physical construct was there. You must realize that all of the progress that you have made since the beginning of physicality on this planet has been the result of choosing from the possibilities and probabilities in the mind of the bubble. We felt that the mind would explain the vastness of possibilities and probabilities, and all it did was confuse the terms the brain and the mind. In your everyday terminology, you talk about the mind and the brain interchangeably. So, you have used the words interchangeably so much that it has confused the issues that we are trying to explain to you. From now on we will try and only make reference to the brain and possibilities and probabilities. Question: could Datre tell us more about what is the mind? Datre: the mind is that which is contained within the bubble. It is like the air you breathe. The difference between the mind and the mass consciousness is that the contents that are in the mind of the bubble are there to be used. There's also the thoughts that have been processed through the brain that compose mass consciousness. They're all there together. You see, you look at that which you call air, and you have so many components that make up air. Those are all the components you know of that make up air. How many components don't you have any way of figuring? There's gillions of them. But because you can't see them and can't detect them with metal instruments, for you, they don't exist. That is fine. It does not matter. But everything is there for your enjoyment, for your understanding, your experiencing. And you see, that is what you do when you go to sleep. That is why you come back with these crazy dream stories. You have been out there exploring all of these many things. When you come back, the brain tries to tell you what you experienced, but it doesn't have any connections, so it comes up with a whole bunch of garbage. But when you are out of body, in your sleep time, and connecting with the you that you are, there are all sorts of wonderful things out there. That is why some people wake up with this silly grin on their faces. They have been having a grand time. Whoops, we're back in physicality again, here we go for another day. Question: does mind exist in the universe? Datre: no, there is no need to. We are birthed, and we exist, and we do what we do. We don't need any patterns. We don't need to figure out anything. It is all there and we just take whatever we want and use it. You haven't been able to do that yet. See, those that are able to get connected with that which is the mind, and can go all through this stuff and know what the magic is, and know what this whole thing is about, understanding your bubble, they are out there, playing in the mind. That is why when they begin playing in the mind, then it is a very short step into the universe. But for now, the universe is still too foreign to them. But you haven't learned to work in the mind. You still haven't figured that out. All you know is your sleep and your awake and your death and your rebirth. You haven't experienced all of that in total awareness, and until you can do that, you can't go out into the universe. It's as simple as that. Because what would you do? There's nothing to hang on to. There's nothing to stand on. You don't have a body. You are there. You know you're there. You are by yourself. What are you going to do? You see, trying to compare the universe with your bubble there is no way. You can't do it. There are no words to describe it, and that's what makes people that are working with their physical brain angry, because there are no guidelines, and there aren't. The only thing is your awareness, and that can open up more things than you can ever imagine. Question: I've been told that thought forms have physical structure, multidimensional physical structure, and like magnets, thought forms collect together in patterns. I've also been told that thought forms and thought form patterns can grow, the more energy we put into them, but that thought forms cannot be destroyed, only de-energized. Datre: now, there is just a little bit there that has to be clarified. So let's make this very simple. A dandelion in a yard, when the yellow blossom dies, and it becomes like little white puffy things, and there's a seed on the bottom, that little seed contains a vibration. Now this is just a story. Were you to think of a thought form as a little white puffy dandelion piece, with the little seed on the bottom, each little seed on every dandelion all over the planet has a different vibratory construct. The vibratory construct comes from the stem of the flower. It is put in at the stem. When the little puffy feathery thing breaks away from the stem, it carries within it certain vibratory patterns. That becomes what you would call airborne. All right, now as an example, there is a physician who has a very difficult operation to perform. He cannot find reference any place for doing that kind of operation. He is extremely puzzled as to how he is going to do that, and he begins contemplating on how to do that operation. He puts a great deal of intensity into what he's going to be doing. All right, here are all these little puffy dandelion-looking things floating around in the air. His wonderment is how to do the operation. How do I start it? The little dandelions with the little seed at the bottom have a vibration within it that matches his question. It is like a little magnet. It is drawn to that question. At this point it is picked up, and the physician begins to connect to the vibration and assimilate that vibration that is within the little seed. Now everything begins to unfold. From the time he picks up a knife and makes the first cut, the more questions he asks in that direction, the more answers he will get. At which time he has completed the operation, he takes a deep breath and it is finished. He needs no more from the little seed. At that point the seed, because the vibration is not the same, is released. The little seed releases itself, takes off going through the air and regenerates itself. The seed does not take anything from the individual. The individual only takes from the seed. Now you can, from your brain, send think forms, if you wish to call them that. But those think forms are not free-flowing through the air. Those think forms have a direction. It can be directed to writing music. It can be directed to another individual. It can go out in any direction it is so directed. Many people have think forms going out of their heads all the time and are never aware of it. But you know one thing, regardless, awake, asleep, or anything else, the brain is constructed to never turn off. Once that computer in the brain is set into motion at birth, that computer continues until what you call death. That goes continuously. So you can walk into a store to buy groceries, and being a sensitive individual, you can be literally bombarded by the think forms that are coming off all of these people in the store. You will notice, if you go into such a store to buy groceries, and it is all frantic. People are pushing and shoving, yelling at children, angry with the clerks because of the prices of the food. Why can't I find this? How come this is so expensive? All of these think forms are flying all over the place because they are attaching to a frequency that is within that store. And the more people that come in that store and pick that up, the more frantic the store becomes. They build a gestalt of, unfortunately, not very pleasant energy. Anytime you get into a situation like that and it is that disturbing, you will notice that you very quickly turn around, walk out, and go to another store. Now the mass consciousness will stay in that store because they don't know any different. They don't feel that. But a sensitive individual will feel that. They just feel this stuff coming at them from all these directions, and it is very disturbing. You will find that this is where the division is going to take place. You are going to find that the very sensitive individuals are having more trouble at work, regardless of what their occupation is, and in public environments in general. They are going to have more and more trouble because their vibration does not match the mass consciousness. And the other thing is, they are vibrating at a different rate of speed. Question: do thoughters also handle ideas for music? I've heard that great composers like Mozart and Stravinsky actually heard their compositions in their ears before putting them to paper. Is this the work of thoughters, or did these compositions come from somewhere else? Datre: it could come from two places. It could come from music that those in the dead zone are playing with, sounds that they are working with in the dead zone. It also could come from thoughters. So, I do not know. Those are the only two options you have.